Hey everyone, it's Ash from SuperVideos back for another video for Season 2 of HBO's The Last of Us. If you think you know what's gonna happen in the second season and you know what to expect, you might just be proven wrong. There's lots of details that have come out that basically turns everything upside down as far as fan predictions go. There's some new pictures that we're gonna go through that do point out some little details about where the story might be heading. There's also details that the directors and writers have talked about when it comes to the second season, which we're gonna be breaking down. And also we're gonna take a look at the writers team for the second season. And we're gonna use all of that to make some predictions about the second season of The Last of Us. So stay tuned, we'll be right back to break this all down. Alright, as always, before we dive into it, smash the like button, subscribe to join our community, and press the bell to be notified when I upload on the channel. Let's talk a little bit about the writers team for the episodes of the second season of The Last of Us. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that my prediction is accurate, only because of who's involved as a writer in each of the episodes for the second season. But what I am saying is that if we look at the writers team for the episodes and the placement, we could use it as a guide to make some predictions as far as which episodes are going to be key episodes. So with that in mind, here is the listing of the 7 episodes of the second season. Of course, we have director Craig Mazin, who's been the director for many episodes of the first season. He's also been the writer of some of the episodes. He's there for the premiere. It's also written by him. Next episode is directed by Mark Millode, also written by Craig Mazin. Next is Peter Hoare and written by Craig Mazin. Next episode, episode 4, is directed by Kate Herron and written by Craig Mazin again. And then the 5th episode is directed by Stephen Williams, also written by Craig Mazin. So the first 5 episodes were written by Craig Mazin. He's only directed the first, but he's written all 5 episodes of the second season, which is extremely interesting. Then we get into episode 6, directed by Neil Druckmann. That's key. Neil Druckmann, of course, is the writer for the game, and most of the time they choose him to direct and write the key episodes. That definitely happened in the first season. We are seeing that it's probably gonna happen here as well. And when it comes to the writers for this episode, Neil Druckmann, Craig Mazin, and Haley Gross. Now, of course, with Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin involved in writing this episode, that tells me that this is a key episode. Now, I don't necessarily think the entire episode is important or has key events. I think what we need to focus on is the cliffhanger. I think the cliffhanger of this episode will be very, very important. It'll be an important part of the story for part 2 of the video game. If you've played the game, you know exactly what I'm trying to refer to. And I think we are absolutely on point thinking that that moment is going to be the cliffhanger of the 6th episode, which is going to get us to the 7th, which is the finale. This is directed by Nina Lopez Corrado and written by, again, Neil Druckmann, Craig Mazin, and Haley Gross. And again, I think that these 2 episodes are going to be very, very tightly connected, especially the end of the 6th and the opening of the 7th. And obviously, I think that's going to be the big story, the big event from part 2 of the video game. So something to keep in mind. Again, not 100%, obviously it's a prediction, but I feel like I'm on point with that prediction. Next, let's look at the promotional pictures that they released. We have this first one of Pedro Pascal as Joel Miller. He's sitting on a couch talking to none other than Catherine O'Hara's character, who's gonna be a therapist. Of course, there was a little bit of the story in part 2 where Joel was basically talking to his brother Tommy back and forth about the events of the first season, what happened to Ellie, And based on what we know, they're gonna do that between Joel and a therapist instead of Tommy and Joel. So in this case, the therapist is gonna be Catherine O'Hara's character. Now, the other thing that I'm going to predict here, it might be a bold prediction, but I'm making this prediction here, and that is that the big revelation about what's going on with Joel is going to come through the conversation between him and the therapist. Again, not to be spoilery, because there might be people here who haven't played the game, especially part 2, but if you've played, think about what triggers everything for the second season of the story, or part 2 of the video game. What was that event? Remember that. It was obviously something that was in the first season as well. I think that is the thing that's bothering Joel. I think he's not gonna be regretful of anything he's done to save Ellie. The only thing is that one thing he did, which is exactly what you're thinking about if you've played the game. And I think that secret or that revelation is going to be something that they're going to have the therapist pull out of Joel. And I think that's going to be the key revelation that's going to put things in perspective as far as what this season is all about. Then we have these pictures of Tommy and Maria, who we saw in the first season. They're obviously back at Jackson, and they're there with their son. This is another big point. The main thing that's changing with Tommy's story is that he's having to take care of his kid while everything is going on. So there's a lot at stake. There's something to lose for him. A lot more than in the video game. Especially with him going to Seattle for this story that's going to be coming up. So that's a key point to keep in mind. We have this picture as well of Tommy back at Jackson giving some sort of a speech to the people that live there, to the residents. Pretty cool picture, not much to really break down for that. We have this picture of Ellie with a shotgun, and obviously it looks like she's scavenging the area. There's debris everywhere, and I think this connects to the shot that was in the trailer where we have an infected crawling towards Ellie as she has her back turned to the infected. So I think that these two scenes are connected. Then we have another shot at Jackson. I think this is where we see the dance between Ellie and her significant other Dina. But obviously here we have Jesse and Ellie. We also do see Ellie's new tattoo. So that's pretty big for video game fans. To be honest, I don't think they're doing it justice in the TV show, because it doesn't look quite as fitting for Ellie and what she looks like as it did in the game. But that might be a minor thing that many fans may not even care about. Then we have this shot of Ellie and Dina at Jackson. Not much to break down. Pretty cool shot of the two of them. And then we have this big one. We have our first look at Abby's crew, including Abby herself, Manny, Nora, Mel, and Owen. So this is pretty cool. Obviously, this is a direct adaptation of a scene that was in the game as well. In part 2, we did see this exact crew kind of stumbling upon a situation that really pushes forward the rest of the story. But speaking of Abby, of course, if you've not played the game, you don't know who she is, but all you need to know is that she's a pretty major character for the second season. She was a big character in part 2 of the video game, and it's gonna be the exact same for season 2. Now, one thing I do want to mention is Neil Druckmann, the writer of some of the episodes and the director for some of the episodes and the writer for the game, did say that they're not gonna go with Abby's look as far as how buff she is in the video game. So they're not gonna do that. They're not gonna have Abby be ripped. And they said that this story is more about the emotional and psychological aspect of the story rather than the physical strength that Abby has that kind of shines through in the second part of the video game. So that's definitely something important. That means they're going to need to change parts of the story. Maybe not significant enough for it to matter, but it's gonna be tweaked just enough to make Abby a slightly different type of character than she is in the game. And that's the last photo that they released that I wanted to go through. I hope everyone enjoyed this video. If you did, smash the like button, subscribe to join our community, and press the bell to be notified when I upload on the channel. That's it for this video. See you next time for another super video.